Hi, this is Michelle Weidenbender, your Chief Hope Builder. And today I have Bobby Newman with me. Bobby Newman from Newman Interventions. And he has written a book, Secrets to Successful Recovery Solutions, What They Don't Want You to Know. Welcome, Bobby, and thanks so much for spending time with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. So, and I guess you're heading off this weekend. How many interventions do you do a week? How are things going for you?
We're staying, obviously, regrettably, there's lots of people who need help out there. And we average, myself, I average about an intervention a week. We make a lot more. We do help people find treatment more often than that. So a lot of times people will call in and they're looking for a treatment program, or they need help, or they're looking for themselves, or sometimes they just need a little guidance. And then, but as far as there's those that need, live intervention. I have a few resources for that. I have an online course that I have, that people can do that's very inexpensive, because you get in to do the intervention. Not only do you've got the fees for the intervention, but also the expenses, flights and things like that. So a lot of times families, I developed this course to help people be able to do it on their own if they feel they need to, if they can. And then I will counsel them too. I'll get on the phone with them for about an hour, or really, I don't really keep the track of the time, but so like you put the pieces together and they can effectively go in and
as long as it takes, right? Yeah. I have passed your website on to many people because there are resources there. And I'm in the same camp with you. Anything we can do to educate ourselves on the front end, especially if you hire an interventionist, so you know how to be prepared, how everybody, you and I have talked about that before. You have to be on the same page, because the end result is what you want. And so I encourage people, go to newmaninterventions.com. Is that the website title?
That's it. Yeah, N-E-W-M-A-N, newmaninterventions.com. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, no you in Newman. Because sometimes I get confused and I put a U in there. There's no you in Newman. So when in the title of your book, Secrets to Successful Recovery Solutions, What They Don't Want You to Know, when you say they, who are you referring to?
That's the mystery. That's the part. It's kind of like it's together, it's a mystery, and to say, hey, who are they? And the truth is that if you look back and who they are, it could be anybody, of course, but it's to me, having come up with in being an addict and looking around at treatment, when I needed help, I didn't have any confidence in the treatment programs that were out there. It was like a lot of the treatment programs were revolving doors. My parents had, or my mother had specifically had, people that worked in the Department of Human Services and other health, fields like that. And they were like, man, there's just not anything out here that could be, that has any long-term success. And so I didn't have a lot of faith that anything could help me. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor says, you have depression, and they want to put me on meds, and I thought, I know what's causing the depression. I'm addicted to methamphetamine and alcohol. So,
right.
I mean, my life is definitely something to be depressed about, but I don't. If a drug's going to help, I've already taken enough drugs and that's not, So that was what my reality was on it, and so I'm not. So that's for me, it's like there's so many intelligent people out here. There's a lot of really, really smart people. And for me, and this is all they have developed for treatment, I just felt like it was a rigged game. That's my viewpoint. It's a rigged game. And so am I going to figure this thing out? I got to go a different route. And thankfully, I had family members that would help me and were able to help me do that. I wasn't necessarily actively looking for treatment, but that's where, for me, it's like, I mean, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories or anything like that, but it's almost almost like the legal system. Once you go into the legal system, getting out of it is really, really hard. I mean, especially for the individual, they're not making like my mindset, I wasn't making sound decisions or able to think rationally. I wasn't a
No.
stupid person. I was smart enough to walk into a federal courthouse without an attorney, and negotiate what could have been 7 years
Oh,
to 2 weeks, and what hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines down to 2,500 without an attorney. But I was then stupid enough or addicted enough to continue to violate my probation.
oh,
Put me on 6 months probation, $2,500 fine, which is the maximum was 100,000 per charge, 3 of them, and then 2.5 years per charge, which was 3 charges maximum, and down to 2 weeks and $2,500 without, and did it all without an attorney. But then yet I was still addicted enough that I couldn't buy, I kept violating my probation. So
yeah, you just couldn't get to the next step.
So I thought, how do I mean, where there's something to be more said about, so that's who, to me, I don't know if
They
that,
are. Yeah.
anyway, that's who they are.
Well, and I think it's really scary for moms who feel like they have to be an advocate for their child, right? And for them to even like sort through all the garbage out there. When I say garbage, there are places that, they just aren't vested in the care. The recovery options are just subpar. And so I think what you're saying is that this is the real deal here. And these are the things, these are the hard facts that maybe moms and families of addicted loved ones need to know. The secret to getting your loved one. Let's see, I'm going to read some of your chapter, or some of your, there's 10 steps here. The secret of getting your loved one to reach for help. The secret to drastically reducing the chance of relapse. I really want to read that one, right? The secret to telling just how bad the substance abuse problem is, to discovering what kind of drugs are being used, the secret to determining just how bad the addiction is, the secret to dealing with this, addicted loved one. And so of any of those, and there are many others in there, but of all the 10 that you list, which one do you think you could just kind of summarize quickly, for moms who might need some encouraging words from you, or something straight, a myth buster, if you will?
A myth buster would be, one is that how bad the addiction is. I would say a lot of times I get calls from people that say, and this is I'm very curious about this, because I always try to revert back to what my mindset when I was an addict and what my thought process was, right? So as a parent, when I had a son who's now 20, about to be 30, which, at the time he was 15 or 14 or 15, but how bad is the addiction? People will call me and say, I just don't know if I need to do this right now, because he's still working, and he's this and he's that, and he's not that bad, and and I'm like, well, to me, I mean, I was like, I knew how it was going to go. My son didn't even have a substance abuse problem, really. He just had a whole behavior problem that needed to be kind of pointed in the right direction, where he didn't do all the make the mistakes and go down that path. So we did an intervention on him when he was like 14. And we set him on, we're like, look, this is where we're going, and this is where you're at and where we're going. And kind of like, so why wait for the addiction to get worse before you intervene in some fashion to say, get this person right back on path? Whether you do a full-blown intervention, like employ my services or not, you can do interventions, just, of stopping the act of stopping that path and redirecting the person onto a better path. It can, and your expectations can also don't have to be altered or watered down or changed just to be, because when you go into the slightest degree, I'll give you an example, and there's so many things that I can talk about. And in the book, all this stuff is really common sense.
Okay.
It's common sense stuff. It's not
Yes.
magical. It's not like a big, oh my gosh, he's got the
No.
secret answer. Because
But
it's just
here's what happens to moms. When
yeah.
their kids are sick like this, do they have common sense?
Well,
No.
that's right. That's
And
right.
I mean, we just kind of get really stupid because of of the upside down logic from our child who we've born, we raised and we've loved, and then all of a sudden all these lies are coming out of them, and we want to hurry up and like figure it out and fix it, and so we just do stupid things, and so we don't always use common sense. And I hope the listeners know that I am like, I'm talking about myself here too, because I was the queen of not making good decisions when my son and daughter-in-law were sick. So no judgment.
Yeah, no, none at all. And the thing is as a parent, even when I was dealing with my son, I had people that were in the industry that were colleagues of mine they literally had to kind of like grab me and shake me and go, what do you tell all these families? Because I forgot. I was like, kind of like your emotions are right out there and you don't think clearly. So it's just it's not easy. It's not, fundamentally, I would, and I had those people that were right there in my ear, including my wife at the time. She rolled her sleeves up, and we'd not been married very long. And then I had other colleagues that were in there helping me kind of guide me. And so I would like these, obviously the women that are in the mothers and the parents that are in your group are seeking other, they're reaching out to you and they're involved in your group. So they're doing that to begin with. I would lay out the plan, and the hard part is even when we do an intervention, we lay out a plan, and it's all planned out, and then we have to, I go over it with them, and then we go as we engage in the intervention. Then we got to stick to the plan, because the emotions are going to come in, and that's where it makes it really hard. So I would, if these guys that just have a plan and do your best to stick to it, and
So in the plan, I guess I'm just curious, is there a place in the plan where you help the person feel loved and without judging, or is it just all tough love? How can you break down some of the pieces of that?
Well, each case, it's a case by case basis, but most of the time, like the majority of the time, if you offer this person some help and some hope,
mm-hmm.
They don't want to live that way. Most of the time, they don't want to live that way. And you can say, and you can set them down, and the thought process is to show them how much you love them and care about them. And it's like, I've even got to where people would say to me, and I learned this over the years, is that, I can't believe you guys did this to me. You guys tricked me. I can't believe, and I would just got to where I just looked at them and go, come on, man. I mean, everybody's usually bawling their eyes out. It's very, they're heartbroken. They don't know what to do. I said, look around. Do you think these guys actually want to be doing this right now?
Right. Oh, good.
They don't want to be doing this right now. But they feel they love you so much
that
they're willing to take time out of their lives and do what they can to help you.
And doesn't that just diffuse all the negative energy from that person?
It plants, if it doesn't at the moment,
it will
plant the seed. Plants the seed to, like, look around, as well as I do. And then they'll say, I just can't. The person naturally wants to blame other people. They don't want to take responsibility.
Right.
And that actually is an indication that they're deep down, they're a good person.
Sure. Because they have a conscience. Yeah.
Exactly. They have a conscience. Right. They know what they're doing is not right. So they got to blame other people. And so they'll say, and I just say, look, you know what? These guys are emotional. I say, look at them. Look at I'll take them in the other room or whatever. And I'll say, look at how emotionally distraught your family is.
Yeah.
They're and they're not, do you think that they're thinking clearly right now?
Right.
So they're not, and they don't know what to do. Things get said, things get done, and it's all based off of emotions. It's because it directly correlates to how much they actually care about you. And I'll even tell them, look, which is true, I can tell what kind of character a person is by the friends that they have, and the family that they have. The good people come out, they're trying to help this person, and I can look and say, look, man, I know, and You know,
Yeah.
I know what kind of guy you are, because look at the friends you have, look at the family that's willing to here to help you.
Right.
That's a testament in itself of what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that gives them hope. Yeah. That makes them feel less, because
yeah.
less judged or less criminal, because so often, after all the behavior and the things that happen as a result of the disease, they just get to the point where they do feel like a criminal. They're ashamed. And so that's probably one little piece of what you have to deal with. So if there was something that you could tell a mom about, how does she talk to somebody who is ambivalent or doesn't really think they have a problem? Is there anything that she can say or do?
Well, that is where, those that don't think they have a problem and they're literally living at home and they're, I don't mean, again, they're taking the life out of other people, and they're expecting, and they're meanwhile, they're not providing for themselves, you know, then I don't have a problem. Well, yeah, mom's cooking for me. She's cleaning my room. She's washing my clothes. Yeah, he doesn't have a problem. Why would he stop? So you have to create a problem, say, well, you know what? I had a problem with this and I'm going to disengage myself. Doesn't mean I love you any less. I'm just not going to participate in your self-destruction. And so you have to, you present it to them like, you're forcing me to treatment. No, I'm not forcing you to treatment. I'm giving you an option because you're forcing me to live a way that I don't want to live.
Yeah,
if you look at it from a point of view from the parent of like, I'm being forced to live a way that I don't want to live, and I'm contributing to this person continuing to do drugs. I don't care if it's a glass of water. I don't care if the guy hasn't eaten in 3 days and he hasn't had a glass of water in 2 days. He's, and he still chooses to go do drugs over providing for himself a glass of water. Then you give him the glass of water, then that's to that degree. Now, giving the person an option for treatment to give them some help and get them to the program, that's not enabling. But the other, I don't, it's the cold hard facts is if you are contributing in any fashion to the self-destructive behavior, then that's enabling, right? Yeah. And you have to be in complete disagreement of it. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you walked into, what's your background, by the way, Michelle? I don't remember.
Well, I have a business degree, but I'm multi-published. And so I'm a novelist, and that's kind of my background. But when this happened, I felt called to start down a new path where I could help other mothers who are going through what I'm going through. And so I started writing more books. I have another one coming out Mother's Day. So.
Okay, great. Well, to use your example as a business owner, if you had an office or a shop or a garage or, an office or whatever, and you had employees in there that were not showing up on time, they were.
Oh yeah, consequences. Right.
Yeah, and you didn't address that. There's a number of ways you could address that to change that. You can positive say, hey, I noticed that you're coming in at, 15 minutes late. You need to be here 15 minutes early. And, this is what I expect. And then you come in a second time. And now the third time, if this happens again, I'm going to have to let you go. Right. But if you don't address that, guess what's going to happen? Then the guy's going to start showing up 30 minutes late. Then the next guy's going to, why the heck am I being here on time? It's just going to get worse.
Right.
That whole behavior. And it's the same thing with your loved one. And the guy starts, the kids start, well, he's just smoking weed. I hear that so much. He's just smoking weed. Well, it's still, to that degree, you are in agreement. And I use it, and weed is totally different now than it was when I was a kid.
I know.
But my family never really said anything about me smoking weed. They knew I smoked weed. And I didn't do it around them, but they never really said anything. So in my mind, I'm like,
they were giving you permission. Yeah.
I got to pass, right? So
right. Yeah.
That's the same thing. You have to let them know, look, this is the lane I'm in. And if you're, I want you.
These are my rules. It's boundaries. It goes always back to the boundaries, right? And I was listening to Brene Brown. Oh my gosh, I just love her podcast too. But she was saying how those 5 minutes of discomfort when you set a boundary. So when you set a new boundary with your addicted loved one, they're probably going to freak out and they're going to get angry. And that feels really bad. Like it feels icky. And moms, especially, it's like we want to avoid that, right? Because we feel like, well, moms, don't do that because they love their children. Well, what Brene was saying is 5-10 minutes of that discomfort of saying no and setting that boundary is so much better than a lifetime of resentment. Because if you say yes, if you keep contributing, all that's doing is, like you said, it's just kind of giving them permission to continue in that lifestyle with that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so it's just prolonging the inevitable or the pain. Whereas, no, this is my bubble. And this is who I am. These are my values. That's why I always say to moms, like, list your values, what's important to you, and then guard those values. And you can still say, I love you enough to say no. And here's going to be my new rules because this behavior isn't who I am. I can't condone, I can't pretend that this is okay with me because it's not. And so, like you said, then you just have to say, here are your options. You don't want to go into recovery. This is your life, your choice, but then here's what you will have to do. You can't live here anymore, or you have to find, somebody else to drive you to work, or whatever it is that, you have to stop doing to allow them to be responsible for their own lives.
Right. Yeah. And, that's exactly right. That's 100%. It's, we talk about it but that necessarily mean that it's easy to do.
No.
Yeah. It is the right thing. And I've had to point out to people before. So why would you want to, we talk about those things that you're doing that, I just can't, what if they're out in the street, and then it becomes about you creatively get them to see, then they would have to figure out, we go back to, I don't have a problem. Well, now they do have a problem. They got to figure out where they're going to live and how they're going to support themselves and actually continue to do drugs in that lifestyle. So that is a problem. Now they do have a problem, right? Well, but you go back to, I had a train of thought. I'm sorry. Let me gather my.
Oh, I get it. Like all things at one time.
I get ahead of myself. So let me. It's kind of embarrassing, but
no, it happens to me all the time. So
the thing of it is, it comes back to them realizing that number one, there is a problem. I have a way out of this, but I don't remember what it was. So I've got the mom to see. So you admit that you're not doing this for the benefit of your son.
Right.
You're continuing to do those things that are enabling him because of your own guilt.
Right.
So you're doing this, it's your own guilt. So it's if you look at it, so I don't feel guilty, then it's kind of like, wait a minute, I'm being kind of selfish here, and if you have to go and get somebody that you consult with every day, it's like me, I've got a coach that I go to. He's a boxer and a professional boxer, as well as a fitness coach. And I go to him because he'll run me on doing my fitness program. Because
he's a truth teller in your life. He's not gonna let you get away with anything, is he?
No, he's not. He's like, come on. I always say that. I'm like, come on. You're a really nice guy except for about 45 minutes to an hour out of the day. And then you're a real jerk. But and I'm paying him to do that. So but he said something too. You look back at these guys and you can tell who they're hanging out with, what their mindset is, who they're hanging out with, the decisions they're making, and he even said, and anybody, and you go back, it goes back to where, talk about enabling and, the holding on, and I don't want to kick them out, or I don't want to cut them off because I'll feel guilty about it if you kind of were step back and take a look at that and you're like, well, you're not doing it because it's the best thing.
Right.
For your son. or your daughter. You're doing it because you'll feel guilty. And I know a lot of people, there's quite a few very, very successful people who their parents, like they were going down the wrong path and their parents said, you know what, you're out on your own. One guy got kicked out at the age of 16, had to hit the road with a suitcase. Another guy, his mother, he was living with his mother. He was in his early 20s and his mother kicked him out and said, you can't live here if you're going to do that. Well, he then went right into a program and got himself clean. And then he's like got
Wow.
and stuff. And so you're continuing to assist these guys doesn't necessarily mean, you can always be there for help. Say, if you want help, it's right here for you, but
Right.
it's going to be on my terms. So
Yeah. I get it. I know. Do you do much, or do you see much around the whole what happened? Do you ever find the trigger or the trauma in their life for what happened? Like, what was it that started them down this path? Or as an interventionist, you just leave that up to their recovery and the therapist and people in their lives there?
Sometimes, I don't try to do that. I mean, because it could take a while for that person to have that realization about whatever that is. There's always something going on,
right?
Some underlying trauma, as you said, something underneath all this that's driving this, and there's cravings, depression, and guilt are the three biggest barriers a person has come through. And the guilt part of it, I didn't come to it I was in a program for a couple of months. Before the guilt comes smashing me in the face, and I'm like, holy smoke. So my job as an interventionist to get them from point A to point B.
Gotcha.
And then I work with the family, but also there's times when I'm talking to the person, I'll say, they'll want to, they're getting into the blame game. And I said, look, bro, I know there's something else going on. I know when somebody's struggling,
right,
and in this condition, there is something that's happened to them or has happened to them in the past, or is happening to them in the present that is causing them to be stuck in this rut.
Right.
I know that. I don't know what we can talk about it now, right, or we can,
but knowing it doesn't change the present situation either. It doesn't eliminate the disease. Yeah. It doesn't help them instantly recover. It's just a piece of their journey that they have to kind of go through in order to probably stay in recovery. So what the last one, what drastically reduces the chance of relapse? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm just super curious. My son and daughter-in-law in February, it'll be 3 years.
Oh, wow.
But our grandchildren went back to live with them this summer after not living with them for quite a while. Yeah. And so the reunification was a really big deal. And part of my trauma is, and I told them this yesterday, part of my trauma is worrying about a relapse, because this has happened so many times where the kids would go back and then they would relapse, and then we'd take them, then the kids would go back. So what is that secret?
Well, there's many, but I go back from a personal standpoint, and I mean, I crack the book open and look, but I'm going to wing and go off the cuff, but personal health, making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're getting enough food, the nutritious food. Those are basic fundamental things, taking care of yourself fundamentally, and getting enough sleep. You get a guy who's working long hours, and the temptation to, and he's trying to pay all the bills, and he's letting it, maybe he's not sleeping well, and he's not eating well, and then so his temptation to go out and maybe take a substance to offset that,
keep him going, or
and it's an innocent enough thing,
sure,
to start, but or they and then the other thing is the people that they're around, right? The people that they go back to old friends. Yeah. You are who you run with, like my grandmother used to say. And it's like, and my coach, he said something, he works with a lot of D1 college football players, getting them ready for pro, or out of high school, getting them ready for D1 college ball. And I said, do you think that your friends you're hanging out with right now are going to go D1 or go pro?
Right.
No. And he said, well, then you're hanging out with the wrong people.
Yeah.
You need to be
Yeah.
hanging out with the people that are, the friends that they hang out with are, fundamental extra, they should get on a good exercise vitamin program to where they're getting their, physical things. If they're experiencing anxiety or depression or something along those lines to where they might want to take a substance,
Yeah.
then, maybe there's something physical going on,
Right.
particularly with girls. Sometimes they body goes through just having a baby, giving birth.
Right. Yeah.
It's hormonal thing. There's things there. So,
Oh, totally. Yeah. And thyroid with women after they have babies is always a big deal. And then, they can get depressed, they can have insomnia, gain weight, and, it's all these things. And if you're not in tune to your body, like you said, it's so easy to want to be normal. And with social media, especially women, like you said, they will look at other women and think, man, they have it all together. Why can't I be like that? Right. And it's the comparison trap. No. Those people are liars. They don't have it all together. None of us do. Right. But it's really, like you said, paying attention to our bodies and ourselves and loving ourselves enough to do that. So that's really, really important. And it's one of the things I work with moms on, because so often they just let themselves go. Yeah. But I love your analogy of who are you hanging with, because even for moms who are listening to this right now, who are you hanging with? Like, I just came away from this conference and I was on the stage with these people who are changing lives all over the world. And it was Christ-centered. It was people full of faith, which is, I'm a woman of faith, but they were called. They've been called in their ministries. And I love being around those kind of people because they just elevate my purpose, my gratitude, just so much in my life. And so moms, if you're listening, who are you hanging with? Because we got some groups, we got some great groups, support groups that you can hang with some people and really take care of recapturing your identity and purpose. So, okay, I just kind of go off on my soapbox on that one, don't I?
But, no, that's okay. They're definitely, right now. What else did you think that I was going to say? I'm very curious about that.
Well, I just think, I would think that like a church family, just being connected, maybe not necessarily into the 12 steps of recovery, but really working on your recovery, and that's personal. And so, for my son, one of the things we did for him after he was a year in recovery is we hired a coach for him, and that coach worked with him for 6 months, and he built him up on positive affirmation statements to say to himself, his diet, his exercise, his recovery plan, and what did that look like, and where do you want to be in 3 years, and just a lot of that. But unfortunately for my son and daughter-in-law, they moved, they're back in the same community that they were using in, but so they don't hang around with those other people anymore, but they don't have any new people. Like, they're still a little isolated, especially because of COVID, and so I do, I feel bad for them that they don't have a support system of maybe people in recovery, right, that get them, and that were there once, who don't judge them. But our community is pretty small, so we don't necessarily have that. But I think that it's like, the antidote to addiction is connectivity. And if you're not connected, are you going to relapse? Are you going to start feeling less than? Right. And so, of course, I always am concerned about that. I can't control it, though. So all I can do is my share, and I send them positive affirmations, every now and then. And if they're struggling and I know it, I can send them a prayer, just let them know that I'm thinking about them. But Yeah, I guess reducing the chance of a relapse, I think, is entirely up to the recovering person, and they
Well,
have to be in charge of that.
they do, but I'm telling you, the things that we're talking about are so fundamental in helping with that. And
Yeah.
being around a church group, being around a support group, being around in that environment,
Yeah.
uh, the people that are trying to do better, nothing ever stays the same. It's either going to get better or it's
Yeah.
going to get worse. And to the slight degree, even if it's to a slight degree getting better, you're learning new things, you're learning a new hobby, you're learning.
Right.
And one of the things like I found, which I was quite surprised about, was like, and I use this in my book as an example of a CrossFit workout. Now, people are within CrossFit are pretty fanatical, but
Yeah.
you don't have to go to that level to
achieve success.
achieve success. But you can scale it back. But if you find people in that group, it's a lot of fun because you're doing it as a group.
Right.
And you're doing the exercises. And I've seen people of all ages go in there and they'll modify the exercises to fit what that person can do. You got to be careful because, my coach is really good because he offers a variety of different things. And, again, you don't have to be, it's not that expensive. If you looked at it like, even if you cut out a latte every day, if you have a latte every day, you could afford to go to a gym like
right.
that.
Yes.
And so, and those type of people you'll find in that group, even, you have a church group and then you have, a workout group like that they're going to be positive people. They're going to be people that are going to be trying to improve themselves. They're going to be not going to be up to shenanigans and things like that. So,
good.
So all those things that we talked about is definitely fundamental. So
one final question. I know, I think you have a place where people can donate. I think I got an email from you a while back about donations, because I'm sure, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure that you have so many people who want to do an intervention but can't afford it. Do you have how often are you able to give scholarships, and where do you find funding for that?
I will help people a lot of times over the phone and things like that. Now I'm not, sometimes I do that if it's in my local area, under special circumstances, I'll go out and I've never really had funding for, now what you saw was I actually am starting up a nonprofit. With me and a colleague of mine are starting up a nonprofit called Angel Life Coaches. And so it'll help people that either have loved ones in treatment who need help, or people that have come out of treatment or still need, like you had hired for your son.
Okay.
And these are, and also, so we cover a variety of things that could, there's so many different things. Personal health, better communication skills, how to improve relationships.
Wow.
Variety of things.
Okay.
So that's what that particular email was about.
Gotcha. Okay. So if moms are looking for scholarships for to hire an intervention, are there such things? And if so, where would those be? Like, where would they?
No, I do not know unless you found a benefactor somewhere.
Okay.
There would be, I would love to be able, I've actually never really thought about, trying to, develop a kind of a scholarship fund for these type of things. But that would be something to think about. I don't particularly have it, but
okay. I would love to be able to get big enough where I could, provide scholarships in different areas. But anytime I even, ask for somebody to take a course to improve or join our subscription membership, they're like, I can't believe you're charging for that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you know how many expenses I have? But and you can't do this for yourself, right? So
well, that's the type of thing too, is if we were in this for the money, there's lots of things that we could be doing for money, in this and people, it costs. It costs, you want somebody else to take their time out of their day, so there's an exchange there, and you're, you need to invest.
And we're worth it.
Yeah.
By golly, aren't we?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm worth it. We've over probably, you probably have, who knows how many people that you've helped and you don't even necessarily hear the results of it, because so just that trickle down
Right.
effect into the society is invaluable.
Right. And you have amazing experience, just amazing. And so don't ever hesitate to charge for what you're worth. I mean, we have to, but moms who are listening, I get it. I know that there are so many expenses, but here's the time to spend your money, right?
Yeah.
This is when, when it means, like if your child had a heart disease, you would take them to the best cardiologist and afford the meds. You would find ways. And this is how you have to look at this for recovery. This is when, you're saving their life, you're investing in their future, and it's your children matter. They're worth it. So, well, thank you so much, Bobby, for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Doing this interview like off the, just in a day's notice. But again, look for his book. I'll put it in the show notes too. So if you want to go to Amazon and find his book, I'm sure that you will find great information there. And so I am going to stop recording